everyone. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast.
So rude.
Go.
Kyle, Rickey.
Go.
I can't even do it now because you're just going to sit here and make fun of me.
Should be used to it.
Yeah.
This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, with the latest NASCAR local, regional, touring, and international racing news and views, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Hey everyone, and welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined as always by my co-host Kyle Rickey. And Kyle, you spent the weekend on the beaches down at Daytona Beach. Not actually on the beaches, though. You got to experience what was a history-making weekend, not only for NASCAR's Top 3 Series, but the ARCA Menard Series, as they basically took the green with not much practice there. But overall, how would you say your experience was this past weekend for the first road course race down there for NASCAR?
Yeah, there was not a lot of time to play in the sun and on the beaches of Daytona Beach, Florida. But I thought it was a very successful weekend for the sport as a whole. There's a lot of us that when we went down there for the Rolex 24, and MRN did the Rolex 24 for a number of years, including the entire event, flag-to-flag coverage for several seasons a few years back. And I always wondered, standing on that scaffold, what a NASCAR race would look like. And finally, all these years later, I say all these years, probably 4 or 5 years later, we were able to see what a NASCAR race would look like on that layout. And I thought it was a great weekend. I think a lot of folks thought ARCA, no practice, no qualifying, we're going green in the rain on Friday night. It was going to be a mess after seeing their short practice session before that. I don't think anybody made a lap without getting off course, and that was in the drive. So, and then they went pretty much caution-free. They only had one break that was scheduled in the event. The Cup race I thought was really cool to see those cars zipping around the International Horseshoe and the infield portion, and then where I was on the bus stop. I thought overall a very successful weekend, and I look forward to hopefully seeing an event back on that course on the schedule here in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was many of us that did tune in, especially that ARCA race on Friday, knowing the circumstances, knowing we're still not really getting practice, let alone qualifying. A lot of these guys have minimal, if any, road course racing experience throughout all of the levels. And to put them on a racetrack like this that no one really has any experience on, you had a couple guys that were familiar with the course to some extent that had maybe ran some IMSA, Trans Am, stuff like that. But to send them, I won't lie and say that I definitely tuned in to the ARCA race to see what I thought was going to be chaos. And a lot of the ARCA drivers, I think, really impressed us. Someone like Ty Gibbs, who has minimal, if any, road course experience. I think he ran a Trans Am race last week at Road America, but no real experience, was up battling with Michael Self during that General Tire 100 for a majority of the race. And it was like watching two veterans as they swapped back and forth, did crossover, but eventually it was Michael Self who has, claimed this road course ringer, not even road course ringer. He's just so good at road courses in the ARCA Menard Series. Did collect that win over Ty Gibbs. But that third place, if you look at the scoring, it says Sam Mayer, but Kyle, it wasn't Sam Mayer that crossed the line in third, although he started the race.
He did. And then what was it? He fractured his hand or his thumb in an event preparing for the road course race last weekend. So he was credited with the third spot. And, it was a decent day for him. Will Rogers got in the top 5 there. Haley Deegan just missed the top 5. I saw a picture on social media today of her going through the bus stop and missing it. And the wall of water that was going over her car was the coolest thing ever. So, it was a great weekend. Michael Self, you mentioned maybe a road course ringer. I think he's just good in Daytona because he won the Super Speedway race there earlier this year to start the season back in February. We throw this at him, and he shows well by claiming the win. So, no matter the layout in Daytona, the big track anyway, he's going to be a force to reckon with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk to Michael Self, that winner here just shortly. But also this past weekend, kind of a sad day in short track racing as one of the racetracks that's been around for quite some time. Myrtle Beach Speedway hosted their final race of the year. And final race
Ever.
ever. They are closing their doors after this past weekend. That track will be demolished. And a lot of people made the trip down to Myrtle Beach to watch that final race. The nostalgia was there, and it's sad to see this racetrack go, Kyle.
Built in 1958, and there's a lot of NASCAR. Some of the big guns kind of grew up there. Dale Earnhardt Jr., one of those drivers that raced late models there years ago. Found success there in the NASCAR Busch Series when they raced at the track in the late 90s and early 2000s. But it was fitting. The Sun Fun 101, rain shortened. I guess that's fitting kind of as well, but it was Sam Yarborough that picked up the race win. The driver that has dominated there, has won 6 late model championships at that racetrack in the last decade. So he's been the man there for the last number of years, held off Will Burns, his title competitor, this year at the finish. So a bummer for the race fans that got a shortened event, but good for Sam to claim that final late model checkered flag at the Myrtle Beach Speedway.
Yeah, Myrtle Beach will definitely be missed. I know I got to race there one time a couple years ago, and it was just cool to be able to say now that I have ran there in the past. But we'll have to catch up with Sam in the next couple weeks. I know he's busy preparing for some Cars Tour races and some races for the remainder of the 2020 season. But before then, we're going to get on the line here with this past weekend's winner, Michael Self, here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Citywide to countryside. Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTire.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. The ARCA Menard Series took to the road course of Daytona for the first time ever this past weekend, and an often road course winner, Michael Self, found his way to victory lane. He joins us now here on Coast to Coast. First off, Michael, congratulations, and thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. That was pretty cool for me. That was a very special win for me with my road course background there at Daytona. One of the coolest races I've ever been involved in, with it being at Daytona International Speedway at night in the wet. Really, really cool conditions and fun race to be a part of.
So let's jump right into it there. You'd mentioned it at night in the wet. That wasn't necessarily on the initial game plan. You guys had a practice that was shortened. You didn't even get to take really part in that due to a faulty plug wire. So they send you guys a green flag with no practice, now in the wet and under the lights. What was going through your mind on that initial green flag?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of unknown. You know, I'm actually really fortunate to have a lot of out-of-car experience at Daytona, since I go down there every year with Mike Cope Racing, the Trans Am series, and coach guys in the TA2 series. And the guys I work with have run in the wet there before, so I had a knowledge of what to do, knowledge of the track, but no firsthand experience on it. So I think going in, it was obviously just being really, really conservative the first lap, kind of getting everything figured out, figuring out, you know, making sure the points that I remembered from a coaching standpoint were accurate, and just making sure, you know, you just have this theory that things are going to go wild, right? I mean, that people are just going to be all over the place, they're just going to be spinning out, but everyone did a really nice job. I think Everyone, when you get put in that kind of situation, I think people reel themselves in really well because no one wants to make a huge mistake. They don't want to be the person to wipe out a bunch of cars and cause a bunch of damage. I think you saw that. I was impressed with everyone racing throughout the field, especially guys like Chandler, who started pole and have zero road course experience and definitely zero rain experience. They did a really nice job of keeping things clean. And fortunately, we were able to get out front and stay out front the rest of the night through those conditions and manage our own race.
Walk us through that battle for the lead. 6 laps to go. You and Ty Gibbs, a very spirited battle there for a while before you pulled away and ultimately won by, 6 seconds or so?
Yeah, I hope everyone that was able to watch enjoyed that as much as I did because I had an absolute blast. I mean, that was some of the most fun racing that I've been a part of in a long time. Ty ran me really, really clean. Those are hard conditions to race side by side in. It's hard to race side by side on a road course to begin with. Throw in the wet conditions, there's a lot of unknown there and a lot of uncertainty, and I just had a ton of fun with it. Really, really good racing. Hopefully, it entices people to watch more road racing and to follow it. But like I said, all that stuff made it one of the most fun races I've been a part of. It was cool to come out on top of it.
And it was exciting to watch as well. I know, like you'd mentioned, a lot of us tuned in expecting a little bit of melee, but it was very impressive to see a lot of these guys really rein themselves in, and the racing produced was incredible, to say the least. But you talked about your road course racing experience prior to the ARCA Menard series. I know that I got to watch you compete in the K&N West series. You have some road course racing experience. You also actually was a driver coach out at Miller Motorsports Park back in Utah. Talk about some of your experience in road course racing, ultimately, which, maybe you felt gave you the upper hand this past weekend.
Yeah, so my background is almost entirely road racing. I started in kart racing, asphalt road racing karts, shifter karts, a lot of touch and go type stuff. I did that for about 8 years, really. I mean, that was throughout my teen years when I was racing out there at Miller Motorsports Park. Karting led to me racing all over the world, definitely all over the country quite a bit. And I was kind of on a path to go Formula car racing and sports car racing. When Champ Car was around back in the 2000s, that was kind of the direction I was headed before I ever got into a stock car in 2008. But when I did get into a stock car and started to kind of transfer over that direction of racing, I definitely had a passion for road racing still, and it wasn't something that I wanted to get away with. So like you said, I got hooked up with the Ford Racing School out there at Miller Motorsports Park at the time. Was able to do a lot of instructing with them, and that kind of translated to working for different manufacturers and different brands on road race stuff. And it was a good way to stay involved. And then when I moved to Charlotte, and I got the chance to start working with Justin Haley. He was at H. Scott Motorsports running for the K&N East series at the time. He and his family mentioned they were going to do some of the Trans Am stuff. So I was like, hey, I've got a ton of road race experience. I've worked as an instructor for the school out in Utah for a long time. Would love to help out with that kind of stuff. And that's what got me over in that direction. And I've been extremely fortunate to latch on to the Mike Cope racing team. And to have a number of clients year after year that either run full-time or part-time. And those cars are just awesome to work with. They're very similar to what we run in ARCA. They're about 500 pounds lighter, which is the main difference, but they're on a very similar chassis. It's basically a super late model chassis with a similar 5-star body on it. But every car is fully outfitted with AIM data and onboard cameras. So my guys come in, I look over tons and tons of data throughout the weekend, lots of onboard footage from the video stuff, and it makes it nice because I can look over multiple data sets at one time and work with multiple clients at one time. And it's, like I said, it's become a home for me. And it's something that I do when I'm not racing myself. I really enjoy going and coaching and going to some of these tracks like Road America and Mid-Ohio and Sebring and Road Atlanta, some of the best road courses in the country, to work with those guys. And it's something that's always on my mind. When you're coaching people from a data aspect, you get to see the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. You get to see where a guy's a little bit faster for what reason. Is it throttle inputs? Is it braking inputs? Is it steering inputs? And then you translate that over to watching video, and you look at a guy's line. I feel I become very, very critical of the road racing stuff. And so when I go to a new track or when I'm on a road course, those are the things that I'm thinking about right from the start. They're building a foundation for me being on that track. And I think that's what leads to success, even like a situation where you said with very little track time and uncertain conditions like being in the wet. 2
wins this year, both at Daytona. How special is that you can say you've won on the super speedway to begin the season, and you've won the series first road race at the same venue.
Extremely special to call it the Daytona sweep. That's pretty cool for me. There was a time in my life where I never thought I'd get the chance to race at Daytona. Nonetheless, race there more than once, and to have 3 trophies from there, that is really cool. That's pretty special for me to be able to say I've done that.
And now we look at last year in the 2019 season, a runner-up in the full-time points. Right now, currently leading those point standings, 15 points over Brett Holmes. And Kyle mentioned it, you won that first race out. Now this one. Would you say that this maybe is a turning point in your season? I mean, I feel like midway through the season, you maybe hit a lull a little bit. And the last couple races, it's really amped back up, now coming off of a win. What do you look forward to the rest of the season now coming off of this win?
I hope it's a momentum boost for us, but no one at Venture Motorsports is going to shy away from the fact that we have been in a lull and that we have struggled since basically Phoenix, the second race of the year. We came out and ran really well there. And then honestly, when we went into the break, we came back and just didn't have the speed. I mean, we haven't had the speed anywhere that we've expected that we should. We've gone to some of my best racetracks, being Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, and we haven't been competitive. I mean, flat out haven't been competing for wins. We haven't been leading laps. We've just we're behind, and we'll all tell you that we're behind on the oval stuff. We've gone to the short tracks, Toledo. I feel like we made a little bit of progress coming away with a 5th and a 4th place finish there, but that's not where we want to be. Those are races where we led laps last year, where we won races as a team last year. And look, we've got, 7 or 8 more races in the series this year, and they're all ovals. We've got to figure that out. Now, is a road course in wet conditions going to translate over to oval racing? Realistically, probably not, but having a little bit of extra momentum and motivation is not a bad thing. A win's never going to hurt, but we've got to get our act together a little bit more on the oval stuff, and we got to keep improving. We've all got to put our head together as a team and figure out why are we getting beat those places so bad. The rules changes have I think had a pretty big impact on us this year. We've been toying a lot with the different motors between the Roush Yates spec motor and the Ilmor. That's kind of thrown a loop into things, and we've got to figure out which direction we're gonna go with that, and where we need to be setup-wise to adapt for each one. And we're making gains on it. Like I said, we've made progress. I don't want to sit here and sound overly negative or like there's no hope for us, but look, we know we've got to be better for all those things.
Next up on the schedule, just over a week and a half from now at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway, you, I believe, had an axle issue there a year ago, but until that point, you were able to get some laps there. Your thoughts on going to that 1.25-mile speedway next weekend?
Yeah, so we did. We were able to qualify on pole there last year, led almost half the race, I think, before we had that axle issue. Had a really, really fast car. I think Christian and myself were kind of the class of the field until Ty came up through there late. So it was a good track for us. Christian ran really, really well there 2 years ago, and I didn't run. So Kevin Reed's got a good notebook there. Venturini's been close to picking up wins there. But we can't say just because we've run well there the last 2 years that we're going to go in and run well this year. Like I said, that's another place where we've just got to figure out where we've been off a little bit and go in and say, look, we know the track. I know the track. I've got experience there. We've got to use that experience to try and bring home a solid run. It's a fun track. It's a little bit unique in that you downshift there. I kind of like that because it makes it a little bit more of a driver's track, 2 totally different ends. Last year they did put down the traction compound, but it wasn't overly aggressive, I didn't feel like. And so it wouldn't become just a one groove racetrack. It kind of made it so that you could escape the air a little bit and made it a little bit racier with multiple grooves. So hopefully, like I said, they'll do some of that again. That place can be really particular from an air standpoint. And so I'm actually in favor of the traction compound there. Hopefully we show back up and we've made another step in the right direction on our oval program to go have another solid run at a track that I do enjoy racing at.
Awesome. Well, Michael, again, congratulations on your win this past weekend at Daytona. We're looking forward to watching the rest of the season. Again, ARCA has been so much fun to watch, especially as this points battle continues to heat up. So best of luck at Gateway coming up here soon and the rest of the 2020 season.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And that's Michael Self, again, your winner this past weekend at Daytona International Speedway on the road course.
Citywide to countryside. Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTire.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
NASCAR Coast to Coast, Whelen Engineering gives us the opportunity to spotlight one of NASCAR's short tracks across the country. And this week is Beech Ridge Motor Speedway, which is a third-mile semi-banked oval outside of Scarborough, which is the greater Portland area of Maine. Beech Ridge has served as a launching pad for many drivers who have gone on to enjoy careers in the regional and national stage of stock car racing. Former NASCAR Cup driver and Maine native Rickey has raced and won at Beech Ridge, and other former Beech Ridge drivers who have made it to NASCAR's top level include Joe Bessie, Kevin LePage, and Steve Park, all whom have also won at the Ridge. There are also several nationwide and NASCAR Xfinity drivers, you may know them, including two-time series champion Randy LaJoie, Jeff Fuller, Mike McLaughlin, and Rick Fuller, who have also raced at Beech Ridge. George Hartley won the first ever feature event held at the track, and Dick Garrett holds the honor of being the first track champion at Beech Ridge. It's estimated that more than 2,000 different drivers have competed at this racetrack during its history. The American-Canadian Tour brought regional touring racing to Beech Ridge in the early 1990s, bringing it with such New England stars as Dave Dion, Mike Rowe, and Robbie Crouch. The ACT also sanctioned the weekly racing events between 1990 and 1994. But in 1995, an agreement with NASCAR was signed to sanction the weekly racing series at Beech Ridge and brought two of NASCAR's touring series to the track. The NASCAR Busch North Series, which is now the ARCA East, and the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour had made tracks to the long-distance races that played to full grandstands. At the moment right now, Beech Ridge is currently running a limited schedule due to COVID-19. Again, that is your Whelen Engineering short track spotlight of the week. But when we return here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, we've got who won this past weekend and who to look for this up-and-coming weekend.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications on the road, in the air, and around the world. Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform. Citywide to countryside. Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTire.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
This week is Dryden Week on MRN as we get ready for the Dryden doubleheader weekend at Dover's Monster Mile. Learn more about our complete line of automotive, commercial, and industrial lubricants at Dryden.com. Dryden, the hardest working brand in heavy-duty lubrication. And Kyle, we just talked to Michael Self about the ARCA Menard series. They've been full throttle since the season restarted, but there is some news coming out of that stable in regards to some schedule changes. Originally, the Madison date was postponed. It has now been moved to Lebanon I-44, which will race on Labor Day. And then they also make that trip to the dirt track of DuQuoin. That race has currently been postponed. There's not a new date that has been set on that. But talking about races this past weekend, we had LP Dumoulin on last week talking about the Pinty's return. They raced this past weekend at Sunset for twin 125s. LP Dumoulin actually collected that first win over Trayton Lapsevich, his debut in the series, covering for Alex Tagliani, and Brett Taylor came home third. And in the second 125, it was Jason Hathaway over Connor James and Kevin Lacroix. And the modifieds also, the tri-track modifieds were at Monadnock, Sam Ramu. Am I saying that right, Kyle?
Ramo.
Okay. Yep. Was the winner in that one over Brian Robbie and Matt Hirschman. Pro late models were at 311 Speedway with Justin Williams winning that over Timmy Harrelson and Cole Apple. And it was ladies' night at Slinger Super Speedway in the late model division. Jacob Knotstead over Tom Janinski and Ryan Gutnick. And for Oxford, another main-based track, the Pass Series ran for the Honey Badger 150. Dave Farrington collected that win over Johnny Clark and Derek Griffith coming home in third.
And as soon as we got off the air last week, the national championship for Division I for the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series came out. Ryan Millington is the early leader. I guess it might be the late leader. The first week we have seen the standings, though, here in mid-August because of the pandemic. He leads by 16 points after finding success at both Hickory and Myrtle Beach this year over Josh Berry, who is 16 back. He has also run Hickory, Myrtle Beach, and Dominion. And Brian Roby, who you just mentioned a moment ago, racing at Monadnock, he is currently third in the standings. Hudson and Claremont are also tracks that he has acquired points at this year. He is 52 markers out. Jared Weston leads in Division II with some checkered flags at Adams County Speedway. And in Division III, Luke Ramsey is the point leader after winning a couple of events at Adams County. He has a 40-point lead in Division number 3.
And we're always looking forward to going racing this up-and-coming weekend. The NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour racing again this up-and-coming weekend. It's been a crazy season for them. Tracks have been changing. They've been added, subtracted. Stafford now on that list, as well as Thompson, and they're back in action this weekend.
Yeah, they're back in action at Jennerstown Speedway this weekend for their second trip there of 2020. You mentioned Stafford is back on the schedule. 2 weeks ago, we weren't sure if we were going to have any races for the Modifieds in Connecticut. Thompson has since announced 2. Stafford on the schedule for September 26th. Justin Bonsignor leads the championship standings by 9 points over Doug Kobe, heading to Jennerstown this weekend. And you mentioned all the racing in Dover. That includes the ARCA Menards East Series. They are in action this weekend, the General Tire 125 here on the Motor Racing Network on Friday afternoon. Sam Mayer, the point leader there by just 2 points over Ty Gibbs. Nick Sanchez is third, tied with Chase Cabry, both 13 points back. They have 3 races to go this weekend in Dover, September 12th in New Hampshire, and October 10th at Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida.
And again, you can watch the ARCA Menard Series East on NBC Track Pass. You can watch that live again or listen on mrnradio.com. Kyle, looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll find myself at a short track this weekend. I believe Cars Tour is in action at Franklin County this upcoming weekend. Will we find you at Stafford, or are you going to Dover?
No, we'll find me at Stafford on Friday night. It's going to be a big night. They have an open modified race. I hear NASCAR Cup Series driver Ryan Preece has entered for the event on Friday night, plus all of their weekly divisions this Friday as well. So going to be a big weekend for racing. In the Indy 500 is this coming weekend, which means I think they're running the night before the 500 this weekend as well at IRP. So there's a lot of great racing across the country as some states begin to open up here in the late summer months.
I know we see it on Twitter all the time, but the guys up in the Northeast and the New England area have to almost giggle anymore when Ryan comes in race and they advertise it as NASCAR Cup Series driver Ryan Preece, because it's one of their friends that they've grown up racing with forever. So
well,
when
they used to beat them up at the go-kart track.
Right. It's like we went to Pennsylvania for USAC, midget week up in Pennsylvania, and Christopher Bell came and ran one of the nights. Yeah. And it was just so funny listening to, and I get it, listening to the announcers going, and on the track now, NASCAR Cup Series driver. And, Christopher's just hanging out in the pits with us. He's just like every other guy. But it is so funny knowing these guys. And, you're good friends with Preece and Bonsignor, and all of them just roast each other on Twitter amidst this. But it's funny, the promotional standpoint of Ryan coming home and racing at a track he grew up with as a Cup Series driver.
Right. And really, he's just kind of rejoining the family, I guess, for a night. But I can't wait for the Twitter interactions between Justin and Doug Kobe and Ryan tomorrow night, Thursday night, and then leading into the race on Friday. Always entertaining, and I'm sure will be more entertaining this week with Ryan back in action.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, best of luck to all of the competitors going out and racing this up and coming weekend at whatever short track you're at. We look forward to recapping it all next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.